Hi, I'm Steve. I'm the Thought PT. I help dads master their time and energy by building out their systems, their priorities, and their mental muscle to become the man and dad that they want to be. So today's topic is all around thinking less to become a better dad, right? And it sounds a little bit weird. I totally get that. But I've been thinking a lot about this recently, and I think a lot of us fall into the trap of treating all of our thinking as the same, right? So we have millions of thoughts every day, but all of them don't deserve as much focus as others. So as an example, if you're spending a lot of thoughts, time, effort, energy thinking about things that are not very important, like that Instagram post Dave put up about his new car, or, what Hoover that you should get on Amazon, and spending loads of time looking at reviews. I've done that, so, versus what nursery that your daughter will go to, then probably you're not focused on the right things, right? You're not focusing on the thinking that will actually make a difference to your life versus the thinking that doesn't really need that much time, effort, and energy. And one of the things that I live my life on, and one of my really strong philosophies that I help my clients with, is living on intentional autopilot, right? So living in intentional autopilot. So IA. And the intentional part is around really analyzing that thinking, right? Being really clear on what you're spending your time on, what your priorities are, what your focuses are. Because what you prioritized 10 years ago isn't going to be the same thing as what you prioritize today. But like one of the things that, I find a lot as well, is especially being a dad, is like you've got to make a lot of decisions all the time, right? And you get exhausted when you're making decisions all the time. So what I like to do, and the thing that's really worked for me and, with the people that I've worked with, is segment our thinking, right? So these priorities, you only have to think about them a few times a year because they're not going to change that much, right? They're not going to change loads between this week and next week. So you don't need to constantly reanalyze and rethink. And the sort of segmentation that I work on is a 90-day period of time. So I'm different to you. So you might have different focuses to me. But I like to look at my work, my health, and my relationships, and pick one or two focuses in each of those every 90 days to make sure that I'm focusing my thinking, I'm focusing my time and energy on the priorities that I want to focus on, right? Rather than just head down and going through life and constantly analyzing and question myself. And in that relationship part is obviously my relationship with my wife, but the relationship with my daughter. So thinking of how I could improve it, how reflecting on what I've done in the previous 90 days and see what I could build on for the next 90 days. And, this isn't rocket science, right? It's relatively simple. All you do is sit down with a cup of coffee, take some space, and actually think about this. And to give you a bit of an example of one of the things that I wanted to prioritize was quality time, right? So really, really conscious of quality over quantity with time with my daughter. And one of the things that I noticed is when she came in from nursery, I was still working, or I hadn't finished something and I took it downstairs and kept my phone while I was trying to do a puzzle, or she was asking me to do something and I was getting annoyed because I was still replying to an email. So I really wanted to cut that out and really focus that time between work ending and Pearl going to bed as real quality time that I've spent with her, because I think that will really help develop our bond and our relationship. And that's my hypothesis. That's what I think will happen. And so I committed to it, right? So now I basically put my phone, either leave it up in the office or put it in the lounge or somewhere where I can't actually get it between 5 and 7 p.m. every night. And that's helped me focus on the priorities that I wanted. My priority was have a better relationship with my daughter, and that's the system that I used to do that. But I don't think I ever would have thought about that if I hadn't taken the time to reflect, to think about it. I would have probably just head down, continued to question myself around whether I was being a good dad or not. And then once I've nailed those priorities, I then build a system to be able to do it. Right. So my priority and my objective was not put my phone away. Sorry, not have my phone on me. So what did I do? My system was put my phone physically out of the room, right? and it's a simple system, but it helps me do the thing that I want to do. It becomes part of the autopilot, right? The intentions is what your priority are. The autopilot is what system can you build to be able to implement that priority. And I call it an automatic action engine. So you don't necessarily have to think about everything on autopilot. You just build a system and then you just carry out the system. So there's no real willpower for me to not look at my phone because I don't physically have it on me, because I've built a system to be able to do that. So why does this work? So I've mentioned quite a few reasons already why this works. But one of the really big ones is there's no more task switching. It's really difficult to reply to an email, then do a puzzle, and then reply to an email, then do a puzzle, and then reply to an email, do a puzzle. You're not doing any of it particularly well, right? You're not focusing on either. So you're not getting the results that you want. You write a crappy email and you aren't spending quality time with your daughter. So less thinking and more doing then focuses on actually doing the thing. You become all in on one thing rather than multitasking between both. You also have set expectations of yourself, right? Like if you've defined what your priorities are, you build your automatic action engine to then live on intentional autopilot, and you do the things every day. You do the things that you say you're going to do. You know that you're a good dad, right? You know that you're hitting your priorities. You know that you've spent time and reflected and focused on the things that are actually important to you. So you don't need to constantly question yourself about whether you're a good dad or whether you're looking after your health or whether you're a good husband or any of those things, because you've already nailed those priorities. It's pretty black and white. If I'm mucking around on my phone, then it's pretty black and white that I'm not doing the thing that I said I'm going to do. So therefore, I should feel bad about that, right? I'm not hitting the gold standards for myself. I'm not hitting my own high standards. So therefore, yeah, I should feel bad about that because that's the level that I want to live my life at. But when you are hitting it, when you do it and your mind goes, am I doing enough? You can unashamedly answer yes, right? You can definitely answer yes. And you don't need to compare yourself to anyone else to be able to do so. And the last real benefit is less thinking, right? Like we've talked about, but more doing. You can take more action in there. So you think that you don't have time to do things. But actually, if you focus on the priorities that you really care about, you find out that you do have a lot more time to do things. So I hope this has helped you to show how less thinking actually makes you become a better dad, a better husband, have a better rig, whatever you want your priorities to be. But it's all about segmenting that thinking, right? Taking time to prioritize the things that are going to move the needle for you, and then creating systems to be able to implement those. I'm going to be releasing a lot more videos, so click the link to subscribe and I'll chat to you soon. Cheers.